Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to you, the power of God. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 2, which is entitled The Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 6, which is entitled Puruṣa Confirmed. And this morning we're doing text 28. So without further ado, we'll start the class. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadhari, Gopi Janavallabha Girivadadhari, Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vradhanaranjana Yashodanandana Vradhanaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari 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 Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivājagasacharya Stotara Satyasati Maharaj Divine Graces A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivājagasacharya Stotara Satyasati Maharaj Divine Graces Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavindi Ki Jai Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Ganga Mayi Ki Jai. Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai. तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the assembled devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga Glory Srila Prabhupada Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tera Swami Niti Namini Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Siddharthan Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tera Niti Namini Narayana Namaskritya Narom Chevam Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Gudirayat Nashta Prayeshwa Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhavato Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. Good morning, dear devotees. Please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, Text 28. Iti sambhṛta-sambhāraḥ puruṣāvayavair aham tam eva puruṣaṁ yajñaṁ tenaivāyajam īśvaram. Iti sambhṛta-sambhāraḥ puruṣāvayavair aham tam eva puruṣaṁ yajñaṁ tenaivāyajam īśvaram. Iti sambhṛta-sambhāraḥ puruṣāvayavair aham tam eva puruṣaṁ yajñaṁ tenaivāyajam īśvaram. Hare Krishna. Please unmute and chant if you want to.
Iti sambhṛta-sambhāraḥ puruṣāvayavairaham tamev puruṣam yajñam tenaivāyajam īśvaram. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Iti
Hare-
sambhṛta-sambhāraḥ puruṣāvayavair aham, tam eva puruṣaṁ yajñaṁ, tenaivāyajam īśvaram. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Next
Hare
question.
Krishna.
Yeah, go ahead.
Iti sambhṛta-sambhāraḥ puruṣāvayavair tam eva puruṣaṁ yajñaṁ tenaivāyajam īśvaram.
Anyone else?
Iti sambhṛta-sambhāraḥ puruṣāvayavair aham.
Krishna Hare.
Eva puruṣaṁ yajñaṁ tenaivāyajam īśvaram. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
इति
Anyone?
sambhṛta-sambhāraḥ puruṣāvayavairaham tamaiva puruṣaṁ yajñaṁ tenaivāyajam īśvaram. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? All right, we do word for word now. Iti, thus, sambhṛta, executed. Sambhāra, equipped myself well. Purusha, the personality of Godhead. Avayave, by the parts and parcels. Aham, I. Tam eva, unto him. Puruṣaṁ, the personality of Godhead. Yajñaṁ, the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Tena eva, by all those. Ayajam, worshipped. Īśvaram, the supreme controller. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thus I created the ingredients and paraphernalia for offering sacrifice out of the parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, the enjoyer of the sacrifice. And I performed the sacrifice to satisfy the Lord. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. People in general are always anxious to have peace of mind or peace in the world, but they do not know how to achieve such a standard of peace in the world. Such peace in the world is obtainable by performances of sacrifice and by practice of austerity. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, text 29, the following prescription is recommended. Bhoktaram yajñatapasam sarvalokam mahesharam suridam sarvabhutanam jatpamam shantim richchati. The karma yogis know that the Supreme Lord is the factual enjoyer and maintainer of all sacrifices and of the austere life. They also know that the Lord is the ultimate proprietor of all the planets and is the factual friend of all living entities. Such knowledge gradually converts the karma yogis into pure devotees of the Lord through the association of unalloyed devotees. And thus they are able to be liberated from material bondage. Brahma, the original living being within the material world, taught us the way of sacrifice. The word sacrifice suggests dedication of one's own interests for satisfaction of a second person. That is the way of all activities. Every man is engaged in sacrificing his interests for others, either in the form of family, society, community, country, or the entire human society. But perfection of such sacrifices is attained when they are performed for the sake of the Supreme Person, the Lord. Because the Lord is the proprietor of everything, because the Lord is a friend of all living creatures, and because he is the maintainer or the performer of sacrifice, as well as a supplier of the ingredients of sacrifices, it is he only and no one else who should be satisfied by all sacrifices. The whole world is engaged in sacrificing energy for advancement of learning, social upliftment, economic development, and plans for total improvement of the human condition. But no one is interested in sacrificing for the sake of the Lord, as it is advised in the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, there is no peace in the world. If men at all want peace in the world, they must practice sacrifice in the interest of the Supreme Proprietor and friend of all. Oma Genati Vedandisya, Yana Gena Shalakaya, Chakshu Umilitam Jena Tasma Shri Gurve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Akadamayam Dadati Swa Padatikam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tinamini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatyanadi Satarani. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Premapadayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Vachase Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So here's the English translation again. Thus I created the ingredients and paraphernalia for offering sacrifice out of the parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, the enjoyer of the sacrifice, and I performed the sacrifice to satisfy the Lord. So, Hare Krishna. This is Lord Brahma speaking. Lord Brahma is the second creator. Lord Vishnu is the primary creator from whom the universes come into existence. And then he explains to Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, who out of his navel, the lotus sprouts, Lord Brahma is born from there. He's called Swayambhu, so he doesn't have regular parents. Lord Brahma is still the Jiva. He is the first living entity of the universe. There's one Lord Brahma for every universe. And all the universes come from Karanodakshaya Vishnu or Mahavishnu. So, he is speaking to his son Narada. Narada has asked a few questions. Narada has seen Lord Brahma in meditation. So we fired about 4 or 5 questions. I'm not sure the exact number. But one of it had to do with the creation, how it came about. And that's the part that Lord Brahma is answering. So it was just at that time Lord Brahma himself and Lord Vishnu. So to perform sacrifices, Lord Brahma is the first teacher for us about the importance of performing sacrifice. All the ingredients were with the Lord. So he got the ingredients from the Lord, and then he performed the sacrifice. Now, even though there are so many living entities now, still the most important thing about sacrifice remains, and that is sacrifice should be performed to satisfy the Lord. Even if there are other things that we're doing, and therefore we have to put in sacrifice for that, there always should be a connection of that sacrifice, one way or the other, to satisfy the senses of the Lord. This is how we grow in Krishna consciousness. If we do things in isolation, only material, with our own aim or somebody else in mind as to who that beneficiary would be, and that's somebody that's different from the Lord, then we actually, in one sense, wasting our time. We see in one sense, because sometimes the mind will give us, but you got a reason for doing it this way. And the Lord shouldn't be part of it. The first class devotee is always thinking about the Lord in everything that person does or plans to do when they're thinking. Krishna is most important. Krishna, if you compare the analogy, the analogy is given by Srila Prabhupada, comparing Krishna to the root of a tree. If you're going to sacrifice anything to the tree, food stuff to the tree, which for the tree is water, sometimes some fertilizer too, it goes to the root. Because the tree is designed that once the root gets the water and other ingredients, fertilizer and so on, It will supply all the nutrients to every part of the tree. So the root is Krishna. The root is Lord Vishnu. So we satisfy everything by going through Lord Vishnu first, giving sacrifices to him. Now, sometimes it becomes hard for people to say, but if I do that, the Lord is there, I live my material life, and when I do sacrifices that way, how can I be sure that everything will be taken care of? Well, it's called the proof is in the pudding. Try it and you'll see, because it definitely works. The Lord is a supreme controller. That is the reason. Because he's supreme controller, he controls spiritual life and material life too. So when we sacrifice for Krishna, it will have a bearing on our material life too, in a positive way. It always happens. The second reason is that Krishna loves us very much. Why would he follow us to the material world when we were being so stubborn, not wanting to stay in the spiritual world and live our life the way it is there, which is very blissful, but want to try something else? And even with that, coming to the material world, he comes. Every single living entity, he is with them. That's Paramatma. He is supervising. He is permitting. The Lord's love is that tremendous, and that reason alone should be one which should fuel our consciousness in terms of sacrificing for the sake of the Lord. The Pandavas lived it wonderfully. Whatever they went through, it was based on Krishna's. Well, Yudhishthira, yes, was the firstborn or the eldest at the time, according to what they knew. Karna was actually the eldest, but at that time they didn't know. So in the 5 brothers, Yudhishthira was the oldest one. And he was very much living life according to the way Srila Prabhupada instructs us to live. Deal straightforward. He was a very straightforward person. Truthful, straightforward. So he lived life that way. So even any material thing they had to do, they always had Krishna in mind. And whatever they did was in pure goodness. And that's for all the material level. But they were always thinking about the Supreme Personality of God. And that is said by Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita. Man mana bhava madmakto, mad yajñaṁ namaskuru. 4 things you should do. First, always think of me. Always think of me. Become devoted to me. As Srila Prabhupada will talk later on, we'll talk about the purport where he brings up Kama Yogis. Spend some time there. But Krishna says, always think of me. Become my devotee. Offer obeisance to me. That helps us in our humility. That he is a supreme Lord, just like my body's trying to say something that is totally different, obscure, thinking that they are going to be at the level of God, or they are at the level of God. Become my devotee. And offer obeisances to me. Worship me. So think of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances, and worship me. And stick to the real religion, which is surrender to Krishna. That is the very next text, chapter 18. Surrender to Krishna fully. When we surrender to Krishna, then we will sacrifice also for Krishna. So Lord Brahma is giving us the example of what we need to do as devotees. He created ingredients, but we don't necessarily create ingredients. We have the ingredients for us, it's already supplied. And the greatest ingredient for sacrifice in this age is our tongue and the sound vibration. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada starts the purport by saying that people in general are always anxious to have peace of mind, or peace in the whole world. But they don't know how to achieve it. But peace, or how to get it, is described by Krishna in the very last text of chapter 5. Chapter 5, Karma Yoga. That's why Srila Prabhupada describes Karma Yoga later. Karma Yoga, Action and Krishna Consciousness. That's the title of chapter 5 Bhagavad Gita. The last text, Bhoktaram Yagyata Pasam. The beneficiary of all yagya, sacrifices, and tapasya, austerities. Sarva loka maheshwara. Sarva, all loka, planets, universes. Maha, greatest. Īśvara, controller. I am, this is Krishna speaking, that he is the supreme controller of all planetary systems, planets. That is spiritual and material. And in the translation, they ask the demigods to it too. Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. He is the loving well-wisher for all Bhutas, living entities, Bhutanam. Now, the one who understands these three things got the peace formula. Yatramam Shantim Richiti. Shantim is peace. That person attains peace from the troubles of material life. So, when we chant, it should be for Krishna. When we get some things, we'll describe, as I said, Karma Yoga a little bit. When we're acting in Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga, or the most important, Bhakti Yoga, all should be with Krishna in mind. We also should understand everything that exists is from Krishna. And then Krishna, as we said, he has followed us even to this separated energy of his material world. He is a well-wisher. That's why he's with us as the super soul. So, Srila Prabhupada explains about karma yogis. They know the Supreme Lord is the factual enjoyer and the maintainer of all sacrifices and of austere life. Excuse me. At this point, I think it's important to make a distinction between karmis and karma yogis. They're not the same, although the word karma is there for both of them. The difference between karma yogis and karmis are who gets the benefit of the work that they do. Karmis work for themselves, giving nothing to God. Karma yogis also work for themselves, but they give some of the proceeds of what they get to the Supreme Lord. That is the difference between karmis and karma yogis. So, karma yogis know that the Supreme Lord is the factual enjoyer. That's why they will give some of the things that they work for, the fruit of what they work to Krishna. Maintainer of all sacrifices. And Srila Prabhupada towards the end, he says, the ingredients of all sacrifices come from him, as Lord Brahma explained. And at that time, there was nowhere else to turn. So, the Lord, we got all the ingredients to the Lord. So, the maintainer of all the sacrifices and the beneficiary of sacrifices, karma yogis, no, that is the Supreme Lord. Now, sometimes we mention Krishna and sometimes we mention Vishnu. So let's make a little distinction there also. Vishnu is an expansion from Krishna. Krishna is the original Lord. Now, why does he expand to Vishnu? For particular purposes, things that he wants to do. This is out of his own will. There's no question of why does he do that. That you can't answer. That's an axiomatic question. Krishna is the Supreme Lord and that's what he wants. He could do things directly, but he prefers to do certain activities based on his Vishnu form. So for the creation of the universes, there's a Vishnu form that does that. The teaching of Brahma as to how to change the universes and give the varieties is done by another Vishnu. Being with us and giving us instruction as a super soul is another Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. But the Supreme Lord Krishna, he is the embodiment of all Vishnus, true enough, but he also does things according to what he wants, especially some pastimes. None of the Vishnus, for example, relates to the gopis, the cowherd ladies, the cowherd girls. It's all Krishna. It's all Krishna. The Vishnus don't play flute. Krishna plays flute. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a difference now. What we did, we're choosing our words carefully here by the grace of Spiritual Master. We didn't say the Vishnus cannot do it. We just said they do not. By Krishna's own will, he dances with the gopis. Mm-hmm. He relates to the gopis. He relates to Srimati Radharani. And the Vishnus, some of them carry out this work like creation, and the things that happen among. Some of them are also other avatars. Avatars is the one who descends from a higher down. They do other kinds of work, sometimes involving Krishna's pastimes. Different forms of Vishnus are there. So we described a little bit based on the creation. But Krishna himself, in one sense, is just, he's all over the place relating to his devotees, friends, wives, girlfriends. He's the Supreme Lord. There's nobody at his level. And so for all of these other things, especially related to the material world, then he expands himself in Vishnu to do that. So anyway, Karma Yogi. So Karma Yoga we describe. And sacrifice suggests dedication of one's own interest for the satisfaction of another. Srila Prabhupada, and this is quoting directly from his purport. So the perfect sacrifice is the one done to satisfy the Lord, because the Lord is the root of everything. Now, the perfect sacrifice is the one that's done to satisfy the Lord. We will compare it to other sacrifices. But the why that perfect sacrifice is the one for satisfying the Lord is that the benefit of that sacrifice, of such sacrifice, is permanent. What's the benefit? There's eternal association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and all the pure devotees of the Lord in the spiritual world. There is eternal joy. Eternality is there. Therefore, there's eternal joy and eternal knowledge. Full knowledge. This is what sacrifice for us would get us. Those of us, particularly jivas in the material world. When we perform yajñaṁ, tapasya, for the Lord, that's what we get. And other sacrifices, which may be material, may be pleasing to the beneficiary. Based on Srila Prabhupada's definition, sacrifice is just dedication of somebody's interest for the satisfaction of a second person. So other sacrifices may be done. It may be pleasing to the beneficiary. Even school is sacrifice. The higher you go wanting a degree, that's a large degree, you have to put in a lot of sacrifice. And deny yourself, and that's the tapasya part. Those who do research, they deny themselves quite a bit. Remember when I was in graduate school, there was a group of people under one professor, and staying there in chemistry and doing research up to 12 midnight daily was nothing to them. Everybody's gone, they're there, up to 12 midnight. Of course, they finished graduate school early because they were going at such a astounding rate. And sometimes the professor would come late at night and be with them. He was a young guy, professor, that time. Anyway, so that was the austerity they were putting in and sacrifice, because they were looking for a particular thing. The students, the graduate students, wanted a PhD, and the professor gets to put so many articles out there, and he gets more popular, and for that more money for research, and part of the money goes to the principal investigator, who is the professor himself. So he makes money that way. Sometimes all the way up to millions they can. Mm-hmm. But that's temporary. Why? Because death will come and take everything away. But the sacrifice to Krishna is always there. Because even if we leave our bodies as devotees, when you go to the spiritual world, the sacrifice, the benefit of it is still there. Eternal association with the Lord and his devotees. Mm-hmm. So, Karma yogis give the results, some of the results of their work to the Lord. Mm-hmm. Now, what is it that fuels the mentality of karma yogis? Primarily, faith in the Lord. The faith in the Lord convinces them that sacrificing for the Lord is the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. Karma yogis determine what they want to offer to the Lord and how much of it that they want to offer. Mm-hmm. And the more loving karma yogis are, the more inclined they are to offer more. The more they're inclined to give. So we do have some who are karma yogis. Their action has Krishna also in mind part of the time. For example, some of them give to Krishna conscious projects, especially Rath Yatra, mm-hmm, and other major functions. They will attend it, but that's it for the year. And they will give fairly large sums of money for organizing such functions. And they benefit from it. Mm-hmm. They don't attend temple programs regularly, but they are willing to support large programs, special programs to serve the Lord. Mm-hmm. And when they support like that, that is part of karma yoga. But there are also jnana yogis. Jnana yogis are dedicated to learning and sharing about the Lord's qualities and activities. They also hold a special place. Mm-hmm. They like to hit the books about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they say things about him and they discuss, and that's good. Makita, prana, boreyantas, parasparam, katayantas, chama, mityam, tishanticha, romanticha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead's devotees, pure devotees. Their very life air is Krishna. And they very much dedicate themselves to sharing what they've learned. And sometimes they will one person will speak and the rest will hear. Mm-hmm. But it's from learning about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And sometimes, learning, that's there. Sometimes realizations also come. Those called vijnana. And the Lord actually gives very, very, very wonderful revelations about spiritual life. Sometimes instructions for a person who's very dedicated to the service that they're involved in. Mm-hmm. I know one person who actually, they were in Girinagri at the time. And it became quite obvious to the devotees how things were happening in the service. Taking care of Tulsi. Tulsi Maharani he's very, 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 if you actually put your heart into thinking of Tulsi the whole time while you're serving, wherever you are, you're thinking about Tulsi. Tulsi will also reciprocate. Mm-hmm. He's here in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead in a plant form, special plant form. So taking care of that plant, it's just very, very specific ways to do it. And if you put your heart into it, she responds wonderfully. Not only will she grow nicely, but she can even give instructions. For those who go very deeply into Tulsi care, they actually get information from Tulsi on how to best care for them based on where Tulsi herself is, the very place it is, and what to do and what not to do. Mm-hmm. So that is, and I kind of rolled into it. Mm-hmm. This, what I talked about in Tulsi, that is actually part of Bhakti. Bhakti Yoga. Now, who are Bhakti Yogis? Bhakti yogis are the ones who are surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there are three of them. Karma yogis, ones who work and give part of what they get from their work to Krishna. Jnana yogis are dedicated to learning and sharing about the Lord's qualities and activities. And bhakti yogis are surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they follow instructions of the Lord, from the Lord and the Lord's spiritual master, and devote themselves to serving the Lord according to what the Lord says to do and not do. All the do's and don'ts based on what Krishna wants and is directed by Guru also. So karma yogis give based on their hearts what they want to give and their faith to the Lord. But bhakti yogis serve based on what Krishna has told them to do. So karma yogis have their own way of giving what they give, but bhakti yogis give and serve according to what Krishna, Guru and Krishna want. So they are surrendered to the Lord. They follow instructions of the Lord. They devote themselves. So for bhakti yogis, instructions come from the bona fide spiritual master as to how to live their life. Instructions, those are the only priority for bhakti yogis. And that's what we encourage to be about. And the practice of bhakti yoga matures into love of Godhead, Krishna prema. Loving the Lord and all the parts and parcels of the Lord, all the living entities, and especially the devotees. Because the devotees are special living entities in that they have turned their attention to the Supreme Personality of Godhead as priority in life, whereas everybody else is living whatever they want to do. So, advancement in Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, helps the devotee to become extremely happy from the heart. This is what happens. After a while, we become very, 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 very happy. And at the same time, we get a little bit more, and it grows. It's a steady process of disconnecting from enjoyment of material energy. What's called sense gratification. You become less and less inclined for that, and more inclined to be happy from within the heart. The soul becomes very happy. The chanting improves. So many things work so nicely in connection with devotion service to the Lord. We can tell sometimes when somebody is really growing nicely, because when it comes to service, they get an opportunity to do some service, they become very enthusiastic. They become very happy, and they go out of their way to get many things done involved in that service. Person is giving their heart to the Lord. That is a bhakti yogi. So the loving connection develops then in the bhakti yogi or devotee. So bhakti yogi and devotee, same. The loving connection develops, and the devotee then does what Krishna wants, satisfying the senses of the Lord. And that's what Lord Brahma was doing. So doing Krishna activities automatically satisfies Krishna's senses and also pleases the spiritual master. It's simultaneous. Spiritual master is a representative of Krishna. So whatever is done favorably for Krishna pleases the spiritual master. And the spiritual master gives instruction, do things to favor Krishna. And the devotee should also know to do things to help the guru in the guru's mission. They can be the most minute of things. It can be the most menial of things, but do it anyway. The big responsibilities may come and may fall on us to do. But the little ones are also very important. The menial ones, very, very important. And as soon as Guru says do something, that thing becomes the priority. It should become priority in our lives. He's not going to push that it be priority, but you understand that serving Guru is like serving Krishna, because that's the representative of Krishna for us to practice how to properly serve Krishna. We didn't do that in the spiritual world. That's why we wound up here. Therefore, instructions from Guru all the instructions become priority. And it should be at the back of our mind, like if we haven't done it yet, it should be always hitting us. Bing, 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 bing in the mind. Guru said do this. Guru said to do this. Guru said to do this. Very good. So, sometimes the devotee of the Lord will be tested by the material energy in terms of suggestions by Maya, sometimes even brazenly telling us to abandon spiritual activity and replace it with material activity. After all, you used to do this and it was very nice. So how come you stopped it? Go back to it and you'll be very happy. After all, you feel so frustrated. This one has happened, especially when we have trials in our way. That's when Maya jumps and says, see, you used to go to this place, then there was drugs, and you always felt so high, and you felt on top of the world. So why are you stopping doing it now? Hold off your rounds and then go do it. You could do your rounds later on. And the one thing about rounds, people know, this, I don't even have to tell you that, but we'll say it anyway. As soon as rounds get postponed, the first thing Maya does is give us more reason to postpone it even further. I can stake my life on it with this statement. You'll do rounds at a certain time, and today you decided that you would do it later. It's going to be later than later, because that's what Maya is going to do. And it becomes a fight now to try to do it early. Because he wants to see that can you really do your rounds? Finish it that day. So we have to be very much regulated in the things that we do. Success comes from regulation. That is success in devotion. It comes from regulation. Doing certain things at certain times and maintaining that way of doing it. Then Maya doesn't have much of an activity, because anything that's suggested, the mind, the intelligence will immediately replace that thing and says, but I do this at this time. And that's the end of that. So Bhakti Yogi or devotee should expect some trials. But when they come, mental negative suggestions, devotee should reject them. And for that reason, we are told that the mind, first, there's a general statement in the Shastra, the mind can be a friend, the mind can be an enemy, friend or foe. The mind can be looked at as a stranger. How do we act when a stranger comes up to us? The first thing is, what does this person want? Sometimes people just ask. In our mind, we can say, what does this person want? Sometimes, in America, it's a nice way to say it. So one person to a stranger can immediately say, can I help you? It's the way it's used now. But that's the kind of things that is talked to a stranger. So when the mind is going to suggest something, look at it like a stranger. Because when a stranger says something, we're going to process it in our minds and say, is this good to do or not? Before we do anything about it. That's the way we should treat our mind. If the mind is going to put me in some place where I'll be in Maya, then the mind is not suggesting something good. We have to abandon that suggestion. If the mind is going to tell me something that will help me in my devotional service to the Lord, to Guru, to devotees, yes, I'll accept that. But you have to process first. We shouldn't have the mind always just, the mind says this and I do it. The mind, no, don't be a slave to the mind. Process whatever the mind brings. So there will be trials in devotees, in life, in devotee life. Why is it there? Because Maya is there to test our faith. He's not there to sabotage our devotion. He's there to test our faith. Why? But when difficulties come, the devotee should be determined to serve willingly, even under such circumstances. The reason is that the difficulty should be expected because the result of success in Bhakti Yoga, the result of the success in Bhakti Yoga is that Krishna will fully give himself to the devotee in love. Now, who is Krishna? Krishna equals existence. Everything that's there is because of Krishna. And he's going to fully give himself to the devotee, and it should be just an easy thing. We shouldn't expect that. Some parts of it have been made easy, yes, to develop love of Godhead, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. But there will be tests. We go to school, we want a degree, there will be tests, a series of tests, and we have to pass them first before degrees are conferred on us. So there will be a series of tests. And the two reasons are to ensure that the devotee is grounded in the service attitude, the attitude towards service. So when problems come, we do the service anyway. That shows that we are grounded. And the second reason is to cause the devotee to realize what we just talked about, that the bhakti process is not cheap. Not for any other person. Krishna is going to give himself to you, and the process to do it is going to be a cheap one. No. Even if it's straightforward, there will be some challenges because there has to be tests for Krishna to see that, oh, this person is really serious about wanting to relate to me. Therefore, patience becomes necessary too, which is an instruction in the nectar of instruction. A truly surrendered person knows that everything is to be done on Krishna's time. The demons are making us get impatient in everything. And impatience is not the way to go in Krishna consciousness. Service is to be done on time, according to the service schedule. But everything else that we do in service, and even in our lives, has to be according to Krishna's time. And sometimes we have to wait. When some material things expected by the devotee for their lives have not matured yet, the devotee should not panic. But he or she should put more faith in Krishna and believe that in time, the best situation will be arranged for the devotee. Sometimes Krishna holds off. See whether this person is patient enough to wait for the time when I do things. Krishna does that. Remember, the results, the success in Krishna consciousness is that Krishna is going to give himself to us. It's a huge, 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 huge gift, the result of Bhakti Yoga. So, the devotee should remember, we all should remember, all things are possible through Krishna. That's why we go give sacrifices to him first. Secondly, Krishna's love, unlike the love that sometimes we claim to have for others, Krishna's love is unwavering. In all situations, is very steady. So, the conclusion is, as they say in America, the mother of all sacrifices should be sacrificed to serve Krishna. And the sacrifice that is for Kali Yuga is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And we have to qualify the chanting with attentive chanting. If we're not attentive, then we are actually being offensive. We're calling Krishna, but we're looking somewhere else or thinking something else. But we need to be thinking about Krishna when we call Krishna's name. All other sacrifices that we do should be subservient, should be secondary to the sacrifice to serve the senses of Krishna. And Lord Brahma is the one that has actually given us the lead in what he did, the way he's describing to Narada Muni, that he took ingredients for sacrifice and sacrifice for the enjoyer, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to satisfy the Lord. Shira Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you very much for coming for this morning class. This is the time now, devotees, to unmute yourself. If you want to ask questions, if you want to share some realizations, Connect dots mean that say some of the things you heard to other things that you've heard in other lectures. You're free to do that. Please unmute yourself. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mother Jackie. Please go ahead. Unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Please accept my humble obeisances to all glories of
Stop
Srila
mine.
Prabhupada.
Stop mine. Glory to the power fire. Okay.
My first question is, when it comes to sacrifices, is attending class, is that considered a sacrifice?
Say that again. What was it?
Attending class. We attend the classes, whether it's this class or the class on devotional service. Is that considered a sacrifice?
It is definitely part of devotion service for sure. It's part of devotion service for sure. Do you think you sacrifice to come to service? The reason I'm asking you, I mean, to come to hear. Do you really feel in your heart that it's sacrifice to come to hear?
No, because I really want to be here.
Aha. See, yeah. And that's why I answered the question the way I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That part, so the real answer is, it is a sign of your enthusiasm. Attending the class, wanting to know more about Krishna is a sign of your spiritual enthusiasm. When you're chanting, sometimes that is, not sometimes, but when you're chanting, it is taking a sacrifice because you're trying to discipline the mind at the same time. See, that's different from hearing a lecture when you're just basically just sitting and hearing. When you're chanting, you have to be focused. The mind wants to travel somewhere, you have to pull it back. And so that part of it is work, mental work, to get the chanting to be of good quality. So that part of it, they're sacrificing it. Whereas this is based on your own enthusiasm. And it's wonderful enthusiasm, because Srila Prabhupada, speaking about class, he said the Sankirtan Yagya, or the for this Kali Yuga, the chanting is the most important, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. But the hearing, he said, the hearing is the first thing to do. So if you're enthusiastic about hearing, you're really obeying Srila Prabhupada also. And that's very important, because the spiritual master has to be obeyed. Spiritual master is practice for us. Whatever he says is practice for how we relate to Krishna. When Krishna says do something, you do it. So when spiritual master says do something, you do it. And he said the first thing to do is to hear. Yeah. So yeah, that expresses enthusiasm when you hear. Very good question, Hare Krishna. Okay.
Yes, Prabhu. And secondly, how do you know when your soul is satisfied? Is that the same as feeling content all around in your life? So how do you know when your soul is satisfied? You mentioned that.
Yeah. One of the you were asking me, is it because you content your life? The answer is yes, but that's part of the reason. The other part of the reason is, or the other part of it is, that you don't get so concerned about material things that you used to enjoy doing. It doesn't become important to you anymore. You slowly pull the enjoyment of the material things becomes less and less and less and less of something that you really, feel like being part of. When your soul opens up like that because of Krishna consciousness, whatever the Krishna consciousness activity is, and the material things that we used to do don't become important for us anymore. And even we could it literally gets to the point I can do without it. That's the attitude to it. I can do without it, or I won't even do it at all. Or if it's something that's against regulated principles, that's like I've stopped it. I've stopped it. I'm not, and there's a good reason why I've stopped it. So all of those come. So yes, content, absolutely. From the heart. You feel happy inside. Second, material things aren't so important. Trying to satisfy the senses materially doesn't become so important to us anymore. Whereas before, it was our main thing. We call enjoyment that way. Hare Krishna. Very good questions.
Haribo.
Haribo. Okay. Any other question? Or
Hare
you want to
Krishna.
share? Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Please below since all glories to Prabhupada.
Except
We
mine, worship Prabhupada.
lot of reminders and a lot of things to uh, ponder upon. Yeah, I think I will like ask a question with respect to the question asked by Jackie Mataji. Like she was talking about the heart's content, and many times we see that even when we are not doing activities that are spiritual, and we feel heart's content. Like if I'm doing some work in my office, or if I'm doing something in my studies, and I achieve something in that and feel content, so how that is different from the spiritual content that I feel, or yeah, you can focus some light on that.
What you're doing for studying and feeling content is because there's an aim that you want to get to. Some things are required to be known when you're in school. So if you're getting there and you're understanding it, yes, there's a contentment that comes. It is at a material level, true enough, but it is indirectly something that will be spiritual later. Because if you, from that, you're able to finish your program, the educational program, and then you start using what you've learned to work in some sort of employment, and that employment gives pay and so on, and through karma yoga you want to give part of it for the Lord, then it's all through this studies thing that has made it possible to get to that stage later. So then indirectly there is benefit. Indirectly there's benefit because there's benefit for the future in Krishna consciousness, the way we described it. So yeah, the contentment from some of the material things we do for devotees is especially because we'll get to a point where we'll be able to give some of the proceeds from the work that we've done and where it's put us in the type of employment that we have, or even running a business for that matter. We'll be able to be the karma yogis and help the Krishna Conscious Project like that. So that's good. That's good. But whereas a kami will be satisfied to study because when they get a degree, and they start working, it will be sense gratification, material sense gratification for themselves. And that means coming back for another body, another life. The same material world, which actually does not give us full enjoyment. We just have an illusion thinking we're enjoying, but actually, Srila Prabhupada says there's really no material enjoyment. There's just things that people do to counteract the suffering condition. That's material life. We can give several examples, but people are just counteracting what would be difficult for us. Material nature gives us quite a few problems, and we try to counteract that. And when we perfect the process of counteracting it, then we say, oh, that's advancement. But all we do is just counteracting the problems. And some problems we cannot counteract. We just have to defend ourselves against it, that's all. But we can't even counteract it, especially the weather. We can't. But, we try to do something. And that's life. That's material life. Spiritual life is it's internal. And the real enjoyment where there's no anxiety of any sort is in the spiritual world. And we get to go there too. So it's wonderful. We're happy here, content from the heart. And the next life is the spiritual life, fully in the spiritual world, where there's no anxiety at all, no need to work for money. Everybody is taken care of very, very well. Very well. Better than even the richest person can be taken care of. That's how good the spiritual world is. Hare Krishna. Any other points? If not, we're just going past the hour also. I'd like to thank you very much for coming. And now we know Srila Prabhupada said that's the first thing to do, to come, to listen, and, then serve. Kama Yoga is good, Jnana Yoga is good, but the topmost is Bhakti Yoga. That's doing things according to what Guru and Krishna want us to do. And that we should all be about that. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhishcha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glory to Srila Prabhupada.